I'm Kara Pack, and this is my Module 8 Legal Aspects of Teacher Evaluations. Summary of the reading materials that were provided. Article number 1 over Every Student Succeeds Act. This was an article talking about how the ESSA ended the federal government's involvement with teacher evaluation system, and now each state is required to establish their own goals, and these goals must also include many factors in the evaluation, not just solely basing it on test scores. And they stressed the importance of training needing to be developed and provided to teachers and principals and different people who are evaluating on how to accurately differentiate different performances and how to give and receive feedback in a timely manner, and then also how to use those evaluation results to drive professional development and personnel decisions. Article number 2, teacher evaluation heads to court, referenced how there's an increasing number of litigations being filed against school districts ever since the evaluating systems have been changed over the years. These complaints have been filed both at the state and federal level, and they are challenging the different procedural aspects of evaluations. And even though the outcome of many of those cases that they listed are yet to be determined, it's still clear that the course of evaluations and the changes that will come will be determined by these cases. Article number 3, teacher evaluation and issue overview. This just talked about why teacher evaluation has changed dramatically over the past few years, and they contributed it to 4 major factors. They said there's been a wave of new research on different teacher qualities and how to assess the quality of teachers. There's been a philanthropic interest in boosting teacher effectiveness. Many people, they mentioned Bill Gates and his wife and how they've poured millions of dollars into teacher evaluations and finding quality teachers. The efforts by different advocacy groups and policymakers to revamp the state laws on the evaluations, and then also pressure from different political parties to dismiss poorly performing teachers. So when I looked at the current evaluation system used here in my district at Turner Unified School District 202, it is managed through the Frontline system, which was formerly ASOP. So it's all managed through that system. Both the teacher and the evaluator have access to the system and all the materials inside. There are cycles for the first and second year teacher, and then you're also on an evaluation cycle if you're on year 3, 4, 7, 10, 13, 16, and then every 3 years after that. The cycles are also different depending on your position. There's one for teacher, one for instructional coaches, one for the nurse, one for the counselor, one for the school psychologist. So everyone's looks a little different depending on what their specific position is. So this is what it looks like for my particular district. This is the information that we're given as a teacher and that the principal will have as well. This is for a first and second year teacher, and it goes through the first semester and the second semester. So the first semester starts off with a pre-observation conference, and this is where you're going to talk about goals that you have or an area you want to concentrate on. And then you'll sit down and you'll come up with a date and a time to be observed, and then the evaluator will come in and observe. And afterwards, you'll have a post-observation conference where you talk about what was noticed during it, what was working well, some challenges. And then the second observation is unplanned. So that needs to occur, and the evaluator has to be in there for a minimum of 10 minutes. And then after that's done, the teacher will submit a self-evaluation on themselves through Frontline and to the evaluator. And then a post-observation and a summative conference will be scheduled. And these are usually done in one setting. And this is where they'll go through the observation cycle as a whole. They'll look at the self-evaluation, and then the evaluator actually does that same evaluation, and they compare the scores and come up with an agreement on a score. And this all has to be done within the first 60 days of the first semester. Then when you get over to the second semester, you have your third observation, again, another conference afterwards, observation number 4, and then you have the opportunity to go back and review and modify if you want, or maintain if you choose your self-evaluation based on the one you submitted during the first semester. And then again, a summative conference at the end of it. And this has to be done within the 60th day of the second semester. Now, the next slide, this slide talks about what the evaluation looks for if you're a third, fourth, 7, 10, 13, and so on. So yours, you only get evaluated one cycle, whereas in your first and second year, you get a first semester evaluation and a second semester evaluation. After that, then it just happens once. And so it's similar, it just, you only go through the round one time. So you have your pre-observation and then your first scheduled observation where you know it's coming. And then you have your post-observation conference. Observation number 2 is unplanned. You have to again submit your self-evaluation. Then you have your post-observation conference and your summative conference, which again usually happens together. And that's where you compare the different evaluations with the evaluator. If at that time the evaluator feels like there is a need for a plan of assistance, that will be discussed. And in my district, it looks like this. You will talk about the evaluator has to give a reason and a rationale of why they're putting the teacher on a plan of assistance. They have to set very specific objectives for that teacher, and they have to come up with a plan of action for them, and then how it's going to be progress monitored and assessed to see how they're doing. And both the evaluator and the teacher have to sign the document, but I think it's very important that you notice down at the bottom, it says the signature indicates that the employee has reviewed the document and it does not necessarily indicate agreement. So your signature does not mean that you agree to it, it just means that you have reviewed it. And it says the employee has 10 days from the date of the signature to submit a written response if they do not agree with it. And then the second sheet is when you meet again, you'll talk about how things are going. So you'll talk about the progress. And then from that point, the evaluator will make a recommendation whether to take the teacher off the plan of assistance. Do they want to continue the plan of assistance and set up a new date to check in on? Do they want to continue an improvement plan but maybe modify it a little bit? Or at this point, have they decided to just initiate the non-renewal process for that teacher? And then there's a spot for comments. And again, both the evaluator and the teacher have to sign it. And again, that same clause is at the bottom, that a signature does not necessarily indicate agreement. So if you don't agree with an evaluation, the teacher has the opportunity. They have a couple different recourses that they can do. Like at the bottom of that form said, they could provide a written response to their administrator about the evaluation. And through Frontline, when the evaluator sends in their evaluation and their comments and the teacher receives it, they have the opportunity to submit confirmation and agreement of it. And if they don't, there's an area, a text box where they can write a written response to their evaluator saying that they don't agree with the evaluation and ask for a new one. If at that point it needs to go further, they can submit a written response to the director of HR, and a meeting will be scheduled with the head of human resources and the evaluator and the teacher, and they'll sit down and decide at that point what needs to happen. And as a teacher, you also have your union. For my district, that would be KNEAT, and you could work with your bargaining agreement for their support and figuring out what your next step would be as a teacher. The legal case that I found was actually one that was referenced in one of the articles we read at the beginning, and it was a school district in Nevada where 15 teachers came together and filed a suit against their school. These teachers said that they had received a series of negative evaluations and had been let go, and some of these teachers had been veterans for over 20 years. And they were claiming that their termination, it violated their contract rights and their right to a due process. They also challenged the Assembly Bill 225, which was passed in 2011, and this removed the protections that teachers once had, such as tenuring. Once you complete 2 years of a probationary employment, you're given tenuring, but that bill took that away for the teachers. The teachers claimed that they suffered monetary loss, mental anguish, and emotional distress as a result of their termination. That bill, which was approved in 2011, provides district kind of an opportunity to get around tenuring. So if you receive 2 years of unsatisfactory evaluations, you are no longer considered a tenured teacher and you're now on a probationary level. And at that point, probationary level teachers have no rights to reemployment or notice or due process. At that point, school districts can just choose to non-renew them. This case is still ongoing. It's in progress. There's yet to be a determination of how it will um, turn out, but I know that the school district has filed a motion to have it dismissed. As a future leader, I'm going to strictly adhere to my district's procedures and timelines, specifically, especially the timelines. I'm also going to ask questions if I'm not sure about some of my responsibilities or if I'm doing them correctly. I will have my go-to resources and people that I can ask to make sure that I am following the letter of the law as far as my requirements as an evaluator. And I'll also make sure that I'm staying current on the ever-changing laws and requirements that are surrounding teacher evaluations.